Welcome to Surviving Show Business, the podcast that takes you inside entertainment to help you survive and thrive with your host, Aaron Seals. Surviving Show Business is sponsored by nycastings.com, the place where stars are born. Actors, models, dancers, and singers can join and get casting notices sent to your phone every day. Hey folks, Aaron Seals here, and today's show is all about live theater. We're going to learn how to make it, how to cast it, how to market it, how to make money from it, and how to make a career out of it. My guest is Elise Milner, and she is a New York playwright and has produced over 250 performances and now has begun teaching a class to teach other people how to make theater. Welcome, Elise.
Thank you, Aaron, for having me.
It's really great to have you. So tell me what being a producer is all about, a theater producer.
It's really the ability to commit to a project and wear as many hats as you can in order to get things done. It's about finding passion in your art and delegating the roles in order to collectively put on your production, whether it's, musical, play, a performance art piece, a solo show, whatever it may be. It's putting all the pieces together to make one whole and getting it on that stage for your audience.
Cool. Now, tell us how you got started, and then we'll get into the mechanics of how this sort of stuff works. Tell us how you got started in this. Why would you choose to do this as a career?
Well, back in high school, I was a big theater buff, and we were both sharing community theater and high school theater in the same gymnasium, actually, which was converted to a stage a few times a year to do musicals and plays. And I was raised in a very small town in Nevada with only about 800 people. So naturally, we had to pull people from the community as well to put on our shows. So I had to learn every single aspect of theater there was to learn. We had to, build our own sets, learn the lighting, put the whole thing together, help with the marketing. We all contributed for the graphics for the playbill. I mean, it was a very collective, humble effort. And I kind of learned at a very early age that theater was, just a bringing together of people to, bring art alive. And went off to college and studied here and there, kind of picking and choosing classes that would benefit my dreams and goals, which were to ultimately be a writer and produce my own stuff, both eventually in film and TV and in theater. So my ultimate goal to come to New York after spending some time in San Francisco and Los Angeles doing both of those, writing, producing. I would write scenes and monologues for fellow actors in acting classes in college. And so I was kind of known as the go-to person. Someone needed a new monologue for their class. They'd come to me and we'd work it, and I would kind of play director as well with it, which was a lot of fun. And I thought, I need to take this to a bigger level, and I need to go to New York eventually. That's the big theater community. And I also love the idea of city living. So I wanted to come to New York and live in the big city with all of the art and the Broadway stuff around me as inspiration. And I literally came here with $100 to my name, my beat up car, drove across the country with an ex-boyfriend who kind of helped me get here.
Wow.
And and I lived upstate a bit for a while, where I started my company kind of in Westchester County, and then eventually moved down to Manhattan about 15 years ago. But I worked out of my little apartment in Westchester, writing a couple of my first shows, kind of on the sly, thinking, I don't know if I could put this in front of an audience yet, but I'm going to play with some stuff. And then there was an audition notice on Backstage to audition for a little theater company that was hiring both actors and writers to come in, maybe 15 of us, to do original work in this tiny little 55-seat theater on 26th Street. And it was just such a quaint little place. And
what was the name of that theater?
I think it was called the Waterloo Bridge Theater.
Okay.
From what I remember, yeah. And these two younger guys ran it, and they were really cool. They were young. They were like fresh out of college. And I thought, how do they get this great space like this? And I started getting visions for like, if I ran this place, what would I do with it? And we performed in one show, one original play that we snatched from one of our original playwrights in the group. And we put it on. I think we only sold like 25 tickets to the show that night. And unfortunately, a couple months later, the whole thing folded. And I thought, I want to try that. I mean, I don't have the funds to go out and rent this big theater and run a rental facility and have, 55 seats and a stage. I don't have that, that kind of resources yet. But I was thinking I could certainly organize a company where behind the scenes go out and then find the space, rent it, bring the audience and, producing basically off. So I just, I thought to go back to polish some of my original scripts and let's see what I could do with them. And that really inspired me, how that little company fell apart. And I thought, yeah, let me make something of this. And then as I started writing and pre-productioning my show, I thought, I think this is my calling, because here I am getting everything ready to actually, go out and do my own thing. I was researching insurance. I was researching, how to get a team put together for like no or low budget. I was researching everything I could on the internet about how to raise money, because I don't have rich family or friends to just hand me a check. Mm-hmm. So I thought, how can I just literally self-start myself into this business and catapult, having known no one in New York City, having no connections, and just doing this on my own. And a couple weeks of research. I also talked to a couple of friends who were new friends of friends, who I thought, well, let me get their ear for 10 minutes and let me just take some quick notes on how they do it. And I literally took some quick notes, called up the insurance place, wrote my family and friends and said, hey, I'm raising money for this show. I don't expect you all to help me out because everybody's poor, but, if you can send me $5 or $10 just to get started, I just need like enough money to get my insurance policy in place so I can go shop for a theater. And then I made my first mock playbill and I thought, well, let me sell ads in my playbill. That would be a good idea to get started. So I started going business to business in my community, most of the places of which I already patronaged, and people were supporting me and buying ads. And next thing you know, I had raised $3,000, then $5,000, and I had enough money to go book my theater. And I thought, oh my gosh, I can do this. And in the meantime, my script had just gotten finished and polished. And so I cast a show, found a rehearsal space. My first rehearsal space was quite a story. It was down near Ground Zero, right before Ground Zero happened. I think it was a year before that happened. And it was this little rundown studio that had a really springy floor. And I don't mean as in dance springing. I mean as in about to collapse. Wow. So they gave me this really great deal to rehearse up there as long as I wasn't jumping up and down and making a lot of ruckus, because we didn't know if the construction was going to hold. So we literally got that place for like $10 an hour. It was, nobody got hurt. It was a successful rehearsal space. I probably wouldn't recommend it to anyone else. But it was very humbling. And we threw up our show, and it sold out. We had a week run, Wednesday through a Saturday or Sunday run. It was Sunday. And I thought, oh my gosh, I was able to, and from start to finish, I raised $15,000 from having literally 22 cents in the bank. I finished the script. Like I said, I built my team. I scored all the little things I need, the little intricate, finding rehearsal space, booking the insurance, getting online, being able to market it, making the posters, and teaching myself web design so I could sell tickets to the show online. I mean, it was really just a jump in and sink or swim kind of thing. And I don't know what came over me to do that even. I literally just said, okay, we're going to do this. I believe in this project. It's super funny. People are liking the idea. The actors loved it. And I didn't even have a cold reading first. I literally just wrote the script and said, okay, I'm putting this out into the world. So it was very fascinating how it all happened. So then after that one production, I left my job as a waitress, which I was doing from 20 years old to 30. I promised myself at 30 I wouldn't wait tables anymore. And sure enough, when I turned 30 is when my first production went up. And when everything was said and done and I had sold the show out and I was sitting there with this literally a small profit, I thought, oh my gosh, I could just keep doing this with my life.
Yeah.
I could just keep doing new shows, writing new shows, getting out the produce, and of course fine tuning the mistakes and the quirks and working those kinks out as I went on to the next production. But I was really inspired by my own opportunity that I created for myself, and that was the coolest thing, was that I can make money waiting tables, or I can make money doing this as long as I consistently, like I said, keep this smooth running and obviously ethical, obviously legal, keep doing things the way I needed to do them. But like I said, just fixing the little errors along the way. Because obviously when you do the production for the first time, it's a test and trial run. So it was a lot of fun.
Okay. So now you've been doing this for years now, this whole process.
Yes.
So,
well, in different types of productions, but yes.
All right. So what would be a business plan for you to give somebody that wanted to do this? Give us a step-by-step of what you would have to do to get an idea that you have into an actual production that makes money.
Right. From head to paper to the world. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the first thing you want to do, is you want to have a solid project, a solid script. So you have to have all the rights to produce it. So whether it's yours, a friend's, or you've worked on it with a friend and you've developed a partnership. And also a little bit of warning to those who are working with partners. You make sure you have a legal agreement in place, because I know 3 friendships that completely broke up over arguing and fighting over the rights to a project that was supposed to be produced. And they couldn't come to an agreement, and the whole thing would fall apart. And both people had put a lot of money into it, and so neither got anything out of it. So be very careful when you enter into your project. Make sure you have all the rights, all the artistic rights. You make a decision with your team or your partner or yourself, a commitment to the project that it will be done with this integrity in mind. And obviously, like if you want to produce a Neil Simon play, you're going to have to jump through more hoops, because you're going to have to get the rights to, in some way through Samuel French or that playwright or however it works. But if you're doing original work, and like I said, once you have the rights to do that and you can jump forward, it's just literally about committing to it. It's saying, okay, I believe in this project. I have full entertainment green light on this, and I'm going to go forward, and that's it.
Okay, now, just to stop there, how long do you think a play should be? Like, what would be a guideline?
Well, if you're only producing it for one night or 3 nights, it could be a 40-minute play. If you're looking to do a full-scale show, 2 hours, hour and a half, then I would say go for the week-long run. So it just depends on the material. Let's say it's like a solo comedy show, and it's literally just one night. You could just go down and rent a space in one of the comedy clubs or a small theater, 35-seater, and do your production. So again, it's literally about what type of production it is and how you're going to carry that out. But in the end, really producing, and like you said, going the head to paper to the world, is about commitment. I mean, we all have great ideas every day, right? And my husband always says to me, because he goes to my shows, he helps build my sets. We traveled around the tri-state area doing our interactive shows for many years, and audiences would show up and they'd laugh and they'd dance all night and they would have a great time. And he'd always say to me, these people are here because you wrote this and you put it out into the world for them to laugh at. He's like, that is so courageous, and you have to always remember that, because I wear so many hats that I even forget that that's my work. I know that you had come to a show recently, Aaron, and I was the bartender. I was just the house manager. That I checked people in. No one knows I'm the playwright. They walk up, they get a glass of wine from me. They ask to be seated in this seat or that seat. I take care of it. And, I play, many roles in my own productions, and none are no important than another, honestly. They're all very important, and I don't like to showboat that, I'm the playwright, so buy a glass of wine from me. No, I'm just a little humble theater person checking my very humble audience in, and I'm so grateful for them to come in, and so you have to wear the hat. So I would say first and foremost, commit to your project, see it through, And that's what I teach in my workshops. The first thing you have to do in your heart, in your mind, no matter how you think your audience is going to react to the work or not, or in what way, emotionally or otherwise, if you've got an inkling to do something and put it out in the world at all costs, you go and do that and you make it happen. So if you say, I'm going to book this theater and I'm going to take this script, I'm going to pay for these rights, and I'm going to work with this person to get this scene or solo show or musical just right, or a 40-minute play or a one act or whatever it is, do it, commit to it, see it to the end. That is literally where we lose people. It's the idea, I've got this great idea for a script, I write a half a play, it gets shelved for years. And then you go off and do other things with your life. And then when you're 60, you go, you know what, I always wanted to be a playwright. I never did it. I really wanted to try that, but let me revisit what I wrote that half a play, 30 years ago.
Okay. So let's get back to the business plan.
Yeah.
A person's got a great script. It's their own script. Let's take that path. And okay, this is what I want to do. I think it's going to be about an hour long. Where do we go from there?
Well, again, you have to decide, are you going to do it for a night, a 2-night, 3-night rental in a theater? Are you going to perform it for a community center? You've got to think about your space, how long you want to do it for.
Okay, next thing you know, you're probably going to go with a shorter run. Maybe. Even I,
who's pretty experienced in this, I don't like to go for longer than a week or two, because it's a long time to get actors to commit, the same actors. And also it's more money to market, when you've got more dates that, and then of course you want to extend something. Well, nobody knows about your extended dates when you're an off level. So it totally depends on the size of your production. So renting your space is next, suitable for the run and the type of show that it is. And even if it's like a religious show, you could go down to your local church and say, hey, can you get me a discount if I on a Wednesday night perform this, or give me a space for this, or even if it's in the basement and I can set up some chairs. If you're really, really, really low budget, there's a lot of ways to get spaces at a low cost. But really, when you're ready, we got the script and you're ready to go, you've got to have a little bit of money. And so that's where your fundraising comes in. So your fundraising will kind of dictate how far and where you can take your production from there. So even if you have 22 cents in the bank, like I did, there's still a level of fundraising that has to take place. And I'm not talking your traditional, like I said, calling mom and dad. I mean, hitting the pavement, making it happen. And when you get that cash and you can walk into a space and say, okay, I have a little deposit here, good faith deposit. Just, can you give me these dates, secure them, get a little contract going. And then now that you have your dates on the books, you can start marketing. You can start planning your auditions. You can start thinking about your rehearsal space. You can think about all the other components. But if you don't have dates and you don't have a secure space and you can't start marketing something, you really still just have an idea in your head about it. So it literally, that next step is booking something solid, a commitment. Again, a time, date, and place commitment.
And if a person's in New York or Los Angeles, where would you find these theaters?
Well, there's a lot of amazing theaters in New York. Los Angeles, I didn't do as much theater there as I did here. So I was mostly doing extra work, stuff through the college. So more so in New York, you can locate some really niche theaters. Now, I put all my work in a particular theater for a particular reason. And I always patronize that theater because there's a lot of different pluses and advantages to that after having rented a couple of different spaces in New York. But overall, shopping for a space is both word of mouth. It's wherever you have maybe dropped in as an actor to rehearse. A lot of this, like Producers Club, has a couple theaters in their building along with a bunch of rehearsal spaces. Everybody's practically been in the Producers Club. They know that, I've
been there many times.
Yes, exactly. Did you know that there were like 3 theaters in there, Yep, so generally the place where you rehearse can refer you to a larger rental. And then 520 New York Spaces, for instance, they do mostly rehearsal rooms. But again, they have a nice theater in there. You'd never know it. So you just I started out old school because just kind of schlepping around by foot around the city, looking at spaces here and there, doing internet searches. And since then, there actually have been quite a few websites that will compile your spaces for you, and you can go online and browse. I think it's New York Spaces or something like that's a website. You can just Google it, and they give you the lowdown of literally every space in the city, from rehearsal spaces to theaters, the size of the theater, the cost of the theater, whether it includes lighting and sound and the restrooms and the elevator access and handicap access and all that stuff. So if you're new, I would say go to a website like that. You can kind of browse around whatever's in your budget and where location that you want to be in. For me, I've been working kind of with the same theater for many years, and I'm planning to stay there as long as I can because I really like the facility. So I haven't really been in the position where I've had to go theater shopping in the last few years, per se. So.
Okay, great. So you found a space, locked down dates, you started raising funds. What's next?
Well, I would say if you are 6 months out, you have plenty of time to get a better deal on rehearsal rates, because the earlier you book, the better. The earlier you book, you get a better space for your money. And you can also start your casting process really. You can get submissions coming in, and you can kind of, again, in all your casting notices, you've got dates now. So the performance is this and this and this, and the rehearsals will be somewhere between this date and this date. And, start your pre-production work. And for me, pre-production work is also about marketing. As soon as, for instance, I have a show that's coming up in October, and I knew that I was going to put this show on 2 months ago, and I knew the title. It's actually just about being finished as far as writing goes, but I already had secured the dates, and same thing, the location, and I already put tickets up for sale, because the minute I know my dates and my location, tickets need to go up for sale, and you need to start creating buzz. And if you want to save yourself a big marketing budget, getting early word out there is really the best way to do it. Get an events page up, listed on all the free websites that you can. There are tons of free websites. Go Mag, Village Voice, you can list events there for free. Theater Mania, which is another great spot. Totally free listing. They're very pro off over there, and they will go out of their way to get you a beautiful listing right away. Where people can directly buy tickets just from browsing their website. So I would say, a lot of just the marketing stuff, getting the buzz out, knowing that your project is ready to start rehearsing. I would say get a website or web page built, get a cheap graphic designer, grab someone from Craigslist, get a college intern to build you a couple page website. That's another integral part of being able to market from a home base, is being able to get someone to get information where they can go to a universal spot, blah, 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 production.com, however it is. So marketing, early marketing, getting your rehearsal space prepared. And of course, fundraising is something that will be taking place pretty much all throughout pre-production. So every week you'll probably have a production timeline that every production should build up, and this task has to be done this week, and this task has to be done that week. And you just kind of go off your to-do list one by one, week by week, until you're all the way up until your production. And while it happens, and then there's even post-production checklists to do once the production is closed. You want it to exist in the world still. You want it to stay relevant. So there are still things to do even after that. So.
Okay, let's get into casting.
Okay,
probably the most important part. Second,
Absolutely.
Third most important part. I don't know.
No, very important.
So
yes.
How do you find the right cast for what you just wrote?
Well, since I just wrote it, I know my characters so well, in and out, that when that person walks in and they start to read just the first few words, I know that is the character. And like, for instance, this next show that I'm doing, it's 8 characters, and I literally have no ethnicities, no shapes, no sizes, no colors tied to the characters. All I know is this is their age, and this is what they're going through. So someone could walk in of any shape, size, or ethnicity and blow me away. And I do have a lot of blind auditions like that, where I don't have any pre-expectations for my actors, just that you come in and you read really well. And obviously, if I want to cast this person, this male, it's got to go with this female. Obviously, we have to just think about height and chemistry. But if I really want someone, I will make that work. So what I do is I prepare sides from the original material, and I will just have them do a cold read. And I will see about 80 people in 4 hours. If I need 8 to 10, I'll do a 4-hour block of time in auditions. And I see them for maybe 2 or 3 minutes at the most, because literally 2 or 3 minutes, you just know. And every single one of my amazing actors that I've worked with over the years, it was an instant thing. Just as you know, like, this person isn't right for the role, this person is. It's just a kind of a gut feeling. And it's all, I think, it is based on the fact that I am having them read the material that they'll be performing. So if I am doing a show, like, for instance, about infidelity, which is my next play, I'm not going to have somebody come in and read a Shakespeare monologue. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So they will just come in, do a cold reading with another actor, and I will literally take what I need from that reading. And if I'm on the fence about somebody, I will just have them reread with somebody else. And sometimes I'll videotape or take photos just to remember extra little details. And usually within 12 hours, my mind is already made up about who I'm going to cast. It's pretty exciting.
What could the actors do to give themselves, like, the best chance of getting cast in one of your plays?
Oh, man. Well, first and foremost, I'm doing really just off and off Broadway. So I'm doing a lot of non-union stuff right now. So with that said, there is a level of professionalism that goes with that, just as you would if you were equity. But a good attitude is really so important to everybody in the room. You need to come in and smile and introduce yourself, and whatever day you've had previous to walking in those doors, leave it at the doors and get into that material. Dive into it, and we give the actors at least however much time they want with the material in the hall before they even come and see us. And I would say they get up to be 10 and 30 minutes. If they want 30 minutes, they can take 30 minutes with it. And some people even try to memorize the material, which is pretty amazing. But they'll come in and they'll work with the other actor, and just taking that moment to really understand what they're saying. Instead of just reading words from a paper dramatically, think about what's being said, because I'm kind of known for my deep, edgy stuff, very emotionally layered lines. And lines are not there frivolously. My lines are there because they are really trying to tell a deeper story. So if the actor can interpret that and understand that story is so much deeper than these lines that they're looking at just on a physical piece of paper, and they can take in those layers and those pauses and look at the fellow actor that's working with them in that moment and give and take and just really listen to what's being said. I think that's where a lot of actors come in. They just speed through the lines because they're a little bit nervous, and they're not even understanding, what's going on in the scene, even though it's laid out in the sides for them. The description is very clear. So what we want them to do is just really take their time with the material and say, if this were a real person, how would this person say this line? And they are a person, but take the character out of it and just be a real person. Be this other person for 3 minutes for us, and let us see another side to you, So
okay.
That's a real big one too.
Okay, got it. So let's say you found your dream cast.
Which I always do, by the way.
Everybody's locked in. What are you doing next?
Well, usually between casting and rehearsals, I give about a week or two span. I give them first time to agree to the material, because when you come in, you read the sides, all you get is a tiny snippet of the script. And then you obviously want to see the bigger picture. So I will, speak with everybody on the phone and say, hey, I'd love for you to do the show. However, before I cast you, fully offer you the role, I just need you to be on board as well. So I want you to read the whole script. Let me know if this is something you still want to do, because occasionally, an actor will come in and love the sides and then read the whole script and say, oh, this reminds me of my mom's, funeral, and it's a little too close to home, and this isn't something I can commit to or whatever. And that's fine. So I let them read that before they fully commit. Once they're on board, we give them the rehearsal schedule, a liability form to fill out, which is also kind of a loose commitment form saying I will be here in this place this time for the next 7 weeks. And and then we'll just jump right into rehearsals within a week or two.
Has there ever been a situation where somebody just checked out right before a show? Like the last week, something happened, they couldn't do it? Oh, gosh. Like, what do you do?
Well, that actually not in one of my off-Broadway, off traditional theater runs where you rehearse for 7 weeks and whatnot. But I have had in my interactive days where I used to do murder mysteries and interactive comedies, you know, you get a cast together, you rehearse a couple times, and then you schlep up in a big van to a location like a catering hall or a hotel ballroom, and you do a show for the night. I've had people not show up for that. So I've had to pull, you know, sometimes another crew, or my husband has had to step in for a character or at the last minute. Because those shows are half improv, luckily I can rewrite certain things very quickly, being the writer as well, being the writer on site. It helps when you can guide the actors into or out of lines if there's a situation like that. So we would, you know, give this person that line and give that person this line and you know, just take the integral lines and give them away to somebody else and try to make them fit into that character. So yes, I've had to do that, but not in a situation where I've had, you know, 70 people coming to the theater every night to watch, you know, a week-long run. Thank God that's never happened. And actually I have had some people say, you know, maybe you should get some understudies for the lead for these off-Broadway or off shows that I've done. And I have considered that. And I actually had a couple of understudies for this last show that I just did that just closed in April. And luckily the understudies didn't even have to set foot into the rehearsal room to do any of the blocking because everybody was so solid. And I also keep my cast healthy. Bring them the vitamin C that they need if they're under the weather. Whatever we do, we're always focusing on keeping yourself healthy, hydrated, injury-free, you know. And that's just in general. You want to do that, I think, on a daily basis, right, Erin? You want to keep yourself healthy so that you can do your work.
Sure.
So, you know, there's a big focus on let's keep everybody, in a good mindset and totally committed so that this doesn't have to happen. I have had to replace people about 4 weeks in, and, you know, last minute casting notice, someone steps in, and luckily they're quick studies and they can just jump in and then just take over. So that's always worked out really well. Thank goodness. So God forbid, right? That
would explain why Broadway shows have such astronomical prices for their tickets, because not only do you have the original cast, you have understudies that are waiting just in case something goes wrong.
Yes,
so,
and things do happen. It's true. It's true. I mean, there was another production where my lead walked in and she had gotten evicted that day, and she had a big show to do that night, and she just didn't know if she could mentally get into the space of the theater, knowing that this eviction was looming over her head. And I just had to pull her aside and have this really heart-to-heart. We had to just go like spiritual. We had to go Zen. You know, and I just have to say, listen, you know, this other situation will work out. But right now is all we have. The present moment is all we have. We're just going to pull it in, and you're going to go out and have a great time. And we're going to take that wonderful acting energy and the artful experience that we're all in, and you're going to apply it to fixing your housing situation, and it's all going to be fine. And literally I had her on that stage in 10 minutes. I don't know how we did it, but that's just, it's literally one step at a time sometimes. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. So you've got your dream cast, you've started rehearsals. How about the set? How do you come up with your sets?
The set...
And like the movement between one set and the other. I kind of never understood that.
Like how to change, like where, okay, so now remember, some of our audience is going to be producing plays that already have been written, and they're going to have to work with the material they have as far as figuring out sets and set changes. Being a playwright and a director, I write my shows as the director, as the stage manager, as the stage designer, so that I don't have to worry about these things once I get to production. So, like, for instance, this new play I'm writing is actually 3 locations, and typically a play is set in 1 to 2. However, I know that in 3 minutes with my team, I can switch that last scene out in 3 minutes, and we're good. So it is really all about... when I'm writing, I'm envisioning where the characters are on the stage, you know, what space they're in, just as much as they're telling me what their conversations are as I'm writing them out in the dialogue. So I'm not thinking just as a playwright. I'm thinking as a producer, as a director. I'm wearing all my hats when I'm writing for this reason. So, and I'm also thinking about my budget. So, for instance, Angels Among Us, I did a show about 6 months ago, and it was a hospital scene for the first act. And we wanted it to look really real. So we didn't want to just do minimal. We wanted to, you know, go all out with the details, and we needed something that looked like a hospital bed, but we can't use a real hospital bed because you can't get it off stage. It's too heavy. So I needed to find a foldable cot that looked like a hospital bed, which we successfully found, that even the back went up so that the person giving birth in the scene could sit up high. We had the IV pole. We had medication. We had her hooked up to a fake IV. I mean, it looked really great. We had all these little medical props around. And now, if a regular person were to produce a hospital scene like that, they'd have to think, oh, gosh, that's going to blow my budget out of the water, right? Yeah. And this is what I teach in my workshops. Again, we're trying to teach really good, beautiful productions and theater on a shoestring budget. So what did I do? I live a few blocks from Lenox Hill Hospital. I gave the publicity director a call. We had a great conversation for 10 minutes. She's like, I'll donate anything you need. Just send me a list. And all she wanted was a thank you in the playbill and acknowledgement that Lenox Hill Hospital donated our hospital supplies. So she supplied me with the IV pole, masks, booties, surgical caps, the whole thing, gloves. She threw a few extras in there. She gave me hospital gowns and scrubs, and I mean, it was amazing. And this is where creative resourcefulness comes from your producer, because again, instead of just defaulting to go, oh, I have to purchase all this stuff. No, you don't. First, think about who in your community has these kinds of things and find those people, chat with them. The art of the barter is everything. So, fitting all those complicated sets into the budget you do have to take that into consideration, but also take into consideration, hey, you might be able to really find that in a much easier way, cheaper way, and you're involving your community as well. And you get to know your community leaders and business leaders, which is why I'm an advocate of selling ads in your playbill to fundraise as well, because you're getting to know really cool people in your neighborhood, and you never know when one of them one day will say, I really like your work. I get sponsors that come to my shows and say, I have $100,000. I'd like to donate to your production one day, or invest. You never know if that sponsor who's purchasing a $200 ad will want to invest in your production larger. These are the people that may have the money to invest in your shows down the road. And I've had some really cool things happen over the years, which I'll say for my workshop, that have led to bigger connections such as that, which is really exciting. So you going out, making your production work at all costs, and reaching out into your community, into spaces you'd never think it really is integral for, that organic networking per se. Because you're saying, hey, I'm this playwright in the neighborhood, and I don't have a lot of money, and I do everything myself, and wondering if you could help me. And you'd be surprised how many people would love to step in and say, sure, I can loan you my broken copier machine for a copy machine prop, or I can some guy donated a bunch of office phones to me when I had to do an office scene with multiple phone lines. It's amazing what you can come up with. So the sets are contingent on your budget and on your needs and what you're willing to do to get them and to build them and to make them happen.
Got it. Okay, so that's how you do set design. Now tell me, how many crew people are basically going to be in on a show to make it work? How many crew, what's a minimum crew that you would need to make a show work?
Well, for my 65, 70 seat theater, I would say, because I double as so many roles, when a lot of people can't double in those roles, but I do, you basically need your front house manager, you need your lighting and sound tech, which is usually one person if you're doing a smaller production. You'll need a stage manager for sure. And really that's kind of my skeleton crew. I have I can count on one hand the same 4 or 5 people that I work with for most of my shows, and we all get it done. And also you can ask for help from the cast, for set changes and quick changes, and, utilizing if you can't pay a stage manager or you don't know one, and you literally just have you and the director. Like I said, the cast can be assigned to move little things here and there during scene changes and costumes and that kind of stuff. And also sometimes your actors want to help in different areas. They want to branch out and they want to learn other things. I just had a really great intern this last show who we taught stage managing. And now she's going to do our next show and do the same thing. And she's going to be twice as great at it because she learned so much and she just went out there and banged it out and moved everything perfectly. And so, I would say it just depends on the size of your production. My casts are always between 7 and 10 people. So for 7 and 10, usually my stage manager who doubles as my assistant director, my lighting and sound person is another person. And once I get the show, open those doors, and that audience comes in, I'm no longer, like I said, playwright producer. I am just the house manager. So I am doubling as my own staff. So technically 3 or 4 people. And if it's just a solo show or a cast under 5, maybe just 1 or 2 of you could do it, or if one of you can double as the lighting person. I've done lights and sound too, and I've had to fill in for my own show when a lighting and sound person hasn't shown up. So if I need to step in and give some, call a friend and say, hey, I need you to check people in and serve the wine and the snacks tonight. I'm going to jump up in the booth and run my lights because that person's not here. Hey, that's what I got to do. But I understand that not everybody is trained, and cross-trained to do all those different tasks. So, just a couple people that you can really depend on that even if they're not into theater, that can be trained or that can learn, that want to learn. And believe me, the world is full of people that want to jump into a production and hang out with theater people. And you experience, they're just getting, invaluable knowledge from that.
Okay, great. So that's basically the secret of doing multiple productions and making a career out of it is you stick with the same crew as much as possible, just to keep things simple.
Well, it's certainly when you find someone that works with you really well, and I want to give a shout out to Dahlia Barakat, who is my stage manager and my assistant director. I literally could trust her with my life, my finances, my pets, my home. She and God forbid if I had to leave for the week of my production, I could trust her to get it done. I started working with her as an intern in 2015. And I was able to create a small budget for her, and I pay her a certain amount for every show because she's literally that valuable. She's amazing. She's also wears a lot of hats. She knows my writing in and out. She can run my rehearsals if I need to be gone. I never thought I could trust somebody to fully understand my work and my vision enough to carry it out and just turn it over to somebody else and fully, 100%. Like if I could not be there for anything, she could literally run it all. And when you find someone like that who you can trust and who really shares and understanding your soul and your heart and your work and your art, oh my gosh, yes, hold on to them and find a budget to pay them to hold on to them. Because if you don't, someone else will snatch them up and they will be giving their loyalty to somebody else. So I always say when you find great people, try to stick with them. Absolutely.
That is great to know. Okay, so we covered crew, set design, casting, rehearsals. Now the show is coming up. Let's say we're a week out. What do we got to know?
Okay, so actually the other thing that's a huge consideration next to building the whole production and committing to it, and like you said, seeing it from head to stage, is filling your seats. Nobody wants to work on a show for 7 weeks and believe in a project and then play to an audience of 10.
Yeah.
So filling your seats is absolutely integral to a successful production. And not just for morale and not just because it may or may not be profitable, because I can percentage you out every performance. How many are comps? How many are industry? How many are sponsors? How many are friends and family? How many are cast brought in? How many are cold off the street, full price ticket sales? How many are discounted? I can give you that, like for every show. I know exactly where everybody practically is coming from. And being that I'm at the desk, I will ask, how'd you hear about us? How'd you hear about us? And so filling your seats it has to be up there in priority with keeping people safe, keeping people happy, and keeping the integrity of the art. Mm-hmm. So, for me, at all costs, I will make sure that my theater is full every night. And I don't care if I have to give seats away. I want my kids to play to an amazing, big, lively audience. And that is done in a combination of ways. Like I just mentioned, you have family and friends, you have, comps, you have your sponsors can come in. I always give, anytime that somebody buys an ad in my playbill, they get 2 free tickets to the show, period. No ifs, ands, or buts, because if it wasn't for their check, I couldn't pay that rehearsal space bill or that theater bill or that for that set piece or whatever it was. So they will always get a chance to come see my show. Some do, some don't. Some just, hey, I love what you're doing. I don't have to come see the show. Here you go. And I've had sponsors renew for years and years and years. And they'll often tell friends and family too. Social media, there's some, discount ticket outlets that you can allot so many to get people in. And those are all secrets, actually, that I only teach in my workshop, because everyone always asks me, how do you fill this theater on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night, with no marketing budget? No, because I literally, and I do have a small following at this, I'm not going to say I have a huge, huge following. I mean, I have a mediocrely loyal following who does come to my shows regularly. But that is not the bread and butter of the majority of my audience. And I get it, because I use a variety of sources of different places so that every seat is filled every show. And we will move into the theater on a Monday at 1:00 p.m. and we will have a show by 8:00 that night. Because if you're going to rent a space for a week, I'm going to use every single night that I can of that rental to fill it with audience members and give those my actors an opportunity to be performing on all those nights. So it's about giving everybody an opportunity. And if you can't pay your actors because you're non-union or the budget or whatnot, the least you can do is fill the house for them with who knows who's out there who can take them to the next level, like the industry people or an investor or just someone who says, I really like what you're doing. I'm a fellow producer and I want to put you over here in this show. And, or I'm a fellow musician. I really like the way you wrote those lyrics. I'd like you to work with me on this book. And I mean, it happens. It happens all the time. And, you're going to work for 7 weeks for free, 6-7 hours a week plus memorization. I want you to have, a full experience out of it. So it's very important to me ethically to make sure that theater's full. So, that's something that will take place, like I said, from day one. The minute you have your seat, your stage booked, your dates, it's a process the entire time. And if you can sell that show out before you even open, or 3 weeks before you open, or at least get 60% sold out, that is where you want to be. You want to have those seats filled before you even open those first doors. So that's literally my second priority in any show, is get those seats filled at all costs.
Got it. So, okay. You got to the end. You made a great show, or a week of shows has gone great. You're done. What do you do next?
Okay. So what I do is, first I update my website, because I still have people going to my website thinking that there's going to be further performances. And then they sadly go to the website and say, oh, darn it, I missed the show. Like, I thought it was going to run a few more days. And so I'll get a phone call or an email or, hey, can I still buy tickets? No, that was it. That's the only week that we had running until the next run, whenever that might be. We don't have any plans yet. We'll let you know. You want to gather everybody that you got from the mailing list, which is generally I will snag email addresses at the show. I will give people an incentive to sign up for an email list, when they're buying wine and snacks in the lobby. And so I will add all those names to that. I will forward emails that I get from, feedback emails to the actors about, the job that they did and how people enjoy the production. Like I said, I will update the website to say, we've closed, but we're open to licensing. We're open to a tour. We're open to taking the show further if you have any inquiries. And I will take video that I had taken during the show, because I always shoot about 4 performances worth of video. And I will edit a post-production highlight video that kind of shows what happened. And if you missed the show, there's the highlights. And I'll mix some fun music and some titles in there. And I will continue to promote the show through the website, even though the show is over, because, I want to obviously get it out into the world somewhere else. So, and that's worked before. I've had some licensing production companies come around and say, I'd like to license a show for like 6 months. And what can I do? And yeah, well, here you go. We make a contract and go and and send it off, and they perform it in their location. And, you get a royalty check for using your work, and super exciting. And we're trying to get some stuff overseas now. So it's always good to not just leave your website, where it was when the show was going on. Buy tickets now, April 23rd to the 29th. It's just kind of sitting there, and it's now 2019, and the show has, the website hasn't been updated since 2017. So definitely, there's some post work. I always thank my sponsors one by one. Again, in an email, anybody who came to the show, I thank them right away. I will post post-production pictures up on the website, the event page on Facebook or Twitter or wherever I was marketing, that kind of thing. And I will keep in touch with my cast naturally in case I want to use them for future projects. So there's always a little bit of post-production chores per se that need to even happen afterwards.
Yeah, that's how you that's how you look legit, right?
Absolutely. Well, and it's a good way to keep everything alive. I mean, you don't want to just do a show for a week and let's say it goes really well and you get a couple good reviews and then boom, it's just because the production date is over doesn't mean the show is dead. We want it to carry on like a person who has passed away. We want their spirit to live on and inspire other projects and inspire more runs and perhaps one day onto Broadway. So that's
a great point. You can easily just do another run of that same production, same cast.
Absolutely.
If it was sold out, why wouldn't you even have another run?
Yeah, and I've done that. This last show that I closed in April was a repeat of a show that I did in 2015. When I did Angels Among Us last May, I did a reprise holiday version this last December, and it was just as successful as the first one. People really loved it. They took to it, and I'm thinking I might even do another Christmas one again because it's such a great message and. We had a nice little following from it. And this is New York. There are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people here. And just because the 500, 700 people that came to the last show, there are still 700 out there that haven't seen the show. There's always someone to come in who hasn't seen it, who would love to see it. So yeah, for sure. Amazing.
So that's how you do it. That's how you become a theater producer.
Well, yes. And let me just reiterate to your audience. Everybody knows a bad play, a bad movie that got financed, that got produced, that's put out into the world. Even if, obviously none of us want our movie or our play to be the bad movie or the bad play. But everything gets financed somehow. And there is better art in the world. There's more exciting art. There is different art. And I consider theater art, obviously. But just what I want to reiterate to everyone is, listen, it's really about just choosing it. Choose it. If this is what you want to do, just go out and do it. And if for the first show isn't that great, just do it again like you would any other job. When you're learning to fix a VCR or a DVD player or your refrigerator and it doesn't work the first time, but you do a couple more screws and then, it comes on. And just keep trying, keep doing it. And it's really literally about deciding to do it. Because I could have been still a waitress to this day had I not decided I declare myself, an artist, and I'm going to make a living doing this. And that's literally all I told myself. And when I proved that I could do it, whether the play was good or bad, I probably still would have kept going. Had it received, for instance, bad reviews, I still would have said, well, let me write something else. Let me try something else. Let me write something different and see how that flies. So just put it out there. Like I said, everybody knows good art, bad art, but the thing is art is subjective anyway. So in your mind, what's bad is good to me and vice versa. So again, it's not even about good or bad. It's just about how you feel about your own work. And if you believe in it, someone's going to resonate with it. Someone is going to connect and relate. And that's all that matters. You want to reach the audience that will connect with it, and the rest of them who don't, it doesn't matter. It's the people that you are reaching. So don't let any of that intimidate you. And, the fear of your work and I'm writing a new show right now that's going up in October, like I said, and it's almost done, but it's like, it's a new show. It's a new play. No one has seen it yet. No one has responded to it yet. It's always, despite my history of successful productions, I still think, is this a show that people are going to like? Is a show, are people going to feel weird about it? Are they going to enjoy it? Are they going to stick around for the whole thing? It's always it's always a new journey, but I believe in it. It's a story that needs to be told. It's a burning desire I've had for a year to write a show with this subject material, and I'm going to put it out there, and I'm not going to be afraid of the consequences and the repercussions, because it's another human story that has to be told, and I feel good about it. And a lot of it is your gut. Like, if you really want to do this and you can see yourself doing it, and it gives you excitement to think that you're producing something that you've created or that you went out there and find to create, that's what matters. Finding your passion and finding your joy and things that make you happy. And waitressing was not making me happy. I thought there's got to be a way to make, an artist's living, not by having to wait tables. I have all these other talents that I want to put out in the world, and I just feel like I'm wasting them. And I'm just glad that I decided that this is where I belong, in the world to be doing. So
that's really it. You just decided to do it.
I literally just decided. What. Yeah. And let me tell you, that very first little mock-up, that little one-page folded paper that looked like a high school playbill, because I had very little design skills. I taught myself graphic design. I taught myself website design so that I could save the money in hiring that, those kind of people, because I was so low budget at the time. And I mean, the fact that I went out and sold ads with a little 8x10 sheet of paper folded it was just a mock program. I mean, it wasn't even a sample of an actual program because I didn't have any yet because I hadn't done any shows. People were still willing to help me and say, sure, I'll do it. Here's $150. Here's $200 for an ad right there. And I just so humble and grateful every day for all of those people over the years who just took a chance and gave me that confidence. Every check, every ad, every playbill over the years has given me the confidence to keep going. And I want to just give your audience that confidence and say, it's just life. If it doesn't have to do with a court or a hospital, hey, it's not that serious. Just get out there and live it, and find the joy, because there is nothing more rewarding than, being in the lobby of your theater and hearing people applause at the end of your show. And then as they're walking out, they're wiping their eyes. Oh my God, that was so good. And there's just nothing like it. It's like, I did that. I created that. And so can you guys, you guys can do it. Come out to the workshop too and learn more details.
Tell us about this workshop you're doing. You're teaching people how to produce theater.
I am. I have this workbook that I have created over time with all of my secrets and notes, because people do, like I said, they ask me, how do you fill seats? How do you do it? Nobody can do that. How do you get the people in? How do you find such great cast members? And so I have these little, and I don't reveal that to just anybody, but I will reveal it to my students, of course. And so over the years, I've been making notes and compiling this really wonderful 60-page workbook on my own notes and production. And I actually sell it on the down low to some of my peers and colleagues. And I thought, I really need to turn this into a workshop, because if I can explain step by step everything in this workbook from, the self-producing from A to Z, non-union, real beginner stuff, I can really hopefully change some lives out there and bring the joy and passion that I've received in my life to somebody else. So the workshop's taking place on July 29th. It's in Manhattan, and it's from 1 to 6 p.m. So in 5 hours, we're going to do a lot of talking and chatting and questions and answers and working through all my secrets and explaining all the intricacies and basically everything we discussed in more layman's terms and a little slower, so you can comprehend all the information. And you can go to Hanging Cow Productions, just how that's spelled, hangingcowproductions.com, or backdoortobroadway.com. Which is the name of the workshop, and you can get a slot in the workshop. And we have very limited seats left. I think we only have 6 seats left for that workshop. So if you want to come on down, we will teach it all to you.
What's that class cost?
That's $199, and includes snacks, bottled water, and the workbook, which you get to take home. So it's a printed, bound workbook that you will have. So you'll have all my secrets in writing to refer to. There's also sample forms in there that I've used over the years, from simple liability forms, audition forms, all kinds of stuff that you can just pull out, copy off. I mean, I'm making your next production so much easier by doing all the footwork for you and preparing a lot of the paperwork for you. as far as, when you have to send a sponsor or create, if you want to start creating your booklet. And I also offer discount services if you need a playbill, if you need a website designer or a graphic designer, offer discount services to my students for any of those facets of your production.
Got it. So one class, you could teach me how to be a Broadway producer, and then I'm off making a living producing Broadway plays. Or off Broadway
off
plays.
Or off. Yeah, we don't get into union or equity rules. We are strictly a beginner's ground up production workshop because that's a whole other ball game, is dealing with the union, and which are always changing those rules. So this is strictly the non-union version of beginning producing, but we really do cover everything. So so come on down and hit up the website, and you can always email me through the website any questions you might have, and I'm happy to answer anything to help you be more comfortable in signing up, or if you're having doubts or questions. I promise you your life will be changed when you walk out with that workbook, because we're going to give you motivation techniques and be inspirational. And it's not one of those workshops where you just have to sit up there and listen to me talk for 5 hours. We're all going to interact. We're going to talk about our projects and our passions and our future endeavors. And I think that's really important as well for the students.
Well, that's all, folks. Surviving Show Business is sponsored by NYcastings.com, the place where stars are born. Actors, models, dancers, and singers can join and get casting notices sent to your phone every day.